Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the fourth episode of the Flyered Up podcast. I am your host, Amadeo Gracia, along with my partner, Chris.
What's up, guys? How's everyone doing?
We're doing good. We are doing good. And I wouldn't say big news out of the Flyers realm this weekend, but I would say really the biggest news coming in the regular season is starting to come closer as we start to creep up to October 4th when the Flyers play in the Czech Republic against the Chicago Blackhawks. And the preseason just wrapped up this past weekend against the New York Rangers. The Flyers lost in a shootout. And I would say this is also some major news. Nolan Patrick has been diagnosed with a migraine disorder. Morgan Frost sent down to the Phantoms with his whole groin issue. And we're starting to really see the roster shape up into what it possibly is going to be. Joel Farabee is looking like he's going to get a roster spot out of training camp, which is very exciting to see. And then into other NHL type news, Justin Falk was traded over the past few weeks. Austin Matthews, that whole debacle with him that's going on. Matthew Tkachuk and Patrick Laine are signed to their contracts.
Finally.
And also, are we getting closer to seeing guys like Rantanen of the Colorado Avalanche possibly signing his contract? Who knows? But to start it off, let's get into this whole situation with Nolan Patrick. Over the past few weeks since training camp really started, Nolan Patrick was diagnosed with an upper body injury, and we really just haven't seen, I guess, a report from the Philadelphia Flyers just on what is wrong with Patrick, because we were seeing footage of him skating on the ice, looking really good out there, and just like out of the blue, he's listed with an upper body injury. So we're really not getting any type of report from Chuck Fletcher. He really doesn't know anything. Just that typical excuse, it's upper body, lower body injury. Kind of reminding me of the time with Ron Hextall when he really wouldn't disclose the injury. So right now, over the past few days, we got an actual result and report from Chuck Fletcher that Nolan Patrick has been diagnosed with migraine disorder and is still considered week to week. And it's really likely that he is going to miss some time into the season. And Nolan Patrick has just been very unlucky now with his past few concussion symptoms. But I think with his migraine disorder right now, there's really no connection to his past concussions and his past injuries. So maybe that's a little bit of the bright side, but migraines aren't anything to mess around with. They are, I wouldn't say just a regular plain old headache. They're much worse than a headache. You have trouble sleeping at night. You have some cases where you can throw up. It's just a terrible thing to deal with. And Nolan Patrick, he has family history with migraines like this, and he's going through that right now. And Chris, just what is your whole opinion right now on this Nolan Patrick's problem?
Well, first, I know it hurts the Flyers. I understand that. But in my opinion on it, I just hope Patrick gets better. As I feel like most people kind of take this as like they don't understand that, he is human and things like that. And they take it where, they're supposed to be professional athletes and they should be healthy all the time. But I just hope Patrick is able to get better because, as you said, this is nothing to mess around with. I want him to come back healthy. I mean, this is starting to worry me more because this is now the third training camp that he's missed in the first 3 years that he's played. So I'm kind of hoping that he's able to just get through this and then not have any more injuries. And I just hope this doesn't make him go into the season with more of a slump too, because it was kind of weird how the whole injury thing started, because for a while before camp, they were saying, he was skating with veterans and stuff when they would come in for optional skate. A couple weeks closer to training camp, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like you said, he just gets an upper body, lower body injury, and then it finally comes out. So, personally, I just hope Patrick gets better because I don't want something. I don't wish that on anyone. As you said, it's a horrible thing.
Yeah, it's just Patrick has been very unlucky in his early career as an AHL player, and even going back to his days in the juniors with the Brandon Wheat Kings. His year of his draft, he missed like majority of that season going into his draft class. And then his first season with the Philadelphia Flyers, he got injured for a little bit. Last season, got injured for a little bit in the beginning of the season. And now that we find out he has this little bit of a migraine disorder and he's going to miss some time into the season, Nolan Patrick just cannot catch a break. He cannot. And the way Flyers fans just judge this kid, it's honestly, it's not fair to him. It's not fair. It's not fair to Nolan Patrick because he's just very unlucky.
To call a kid a bust for playing the first year on a third line with Dale Weiss and Jordan Wheel, and then missing a majority of the season as well from injuries in the beginning of the year, and then getting hurt last year, and coming back with a semi-decent season. He didn't really have that good of a year. I mean, the team didn't have a good year either, but he did play the second line, and you can't call a kid a bust like that. And the people who even compare him to Nico Hischier, you can't compare someone who's played a third line to a first line with Taylor Hall and Kyle Palmieri for the first 2 years of his career. Hischier's played on the first line with the Devils for the last 2 years?
Yeah, he's been on the first line, I think, with Taylor Hall I think he started on the second line his first year, but then he eventually moved to the first line.
Yeah, and I don't get it. Like, the last guys to go up to their potential, you could say Matthews, 100% McDavid, Crosby, Ovechkin, Marc-Andre Fleury. It's rare. I mean, freaking what's his face? The guy, Steven Diego. You remember him when he got drafted? He was like the number 1 pick, and he was horrible. Got drafted to Ottawa.
No, I do not remember that draft whatsoever.
Really? It was like in the 90s. But he was like he went first overall, and he just never went up to his potential.
Yeah, it's just who did Edmonton draft that one year? And
Nail Yakupov.
He became a major bust. After his first year in the season was actually pretty good, but then just the following, he just never lived up to his potential.
Yeah, he played around 30 games at like 30 points, and that was a 12-13
that was the lockout
season.
Yeah, that was the lockout year.
And that was when Couturier had around like 27 points.
Yep.
And before the 17-18 season, I think Couturier's career high was a little bit over 40, wasn't it?
Yeah, because...
And then he gets around 80, and then 70s around 70-something points last year.
Yeah, because Sean Couturier was playing bottom line minutes on the third line with guys like Matt Reed, guys like eventually Dale Weiss as well. And once Couturier finally got that chance to be put on the first line with a player like Claude Giroux, his game actually broke out and he showed his offensive capabilities.
Always been a good defensive player.
Yeah. Couturier was always a good defensive player. He had the offensive upside as well because he proved that in the juniors. He was a scorer.
He was drafted as a goal scorer.
Yeah. It just comes down to you have to play with the right people on your line. Nolan Patrick is playing with bottom 6 forwards. Mm-hmm. And this year he was going to get the chance to play with a guy like Oscar Lindblom and possibly a young rookie, Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost, one of those type of guys. And now when he was actually going to be playing on the third line, it would take a little bit of the pressure off Nolan Patrick. Instead of playing those second line minutes, he can play lower in the lineup on the third line and play the lesser matchups to where he can gain his confidence and grow his game even more. I think right now for Nolan Patrick, playing on the second line was possibly just a little too much for him. And it's also unfair because Nolan Patrick, and honestly, I say he's still the best player in his draft class. And the 2017 draft was a very weak draft class.
There were some good players, but it wasn't like it just didn't have as much hype as, the 15 draft where if you had a top 20 pick, you were getting, one of the best players in the draft. I mean, Mitch Marner went really late in that draft. Travis Konechny went 24th in that draft.
Yeah, going into the 2017 draft, there wasn't as much hype. It was basically either who's going first, Nico or Nolan. And then you also had the guys like Heiskanen, Makar. And then the Vancouver Canucks just come out of nowhere and pick Elias Pettersson 5th overall when he really wasn't expected to go that high.
Yeah, he wasn't even supposed to go top 10, wasn't he?
I think a lot of people had him mid-teens and 20s. Yeah. That's where a lot of people had Pettersson. But the Vancouver Canucks got a reach and they got a steal.
And the Flyers actually had a pretty good draft that year. They got Patrick Frost and Ratcliffe from that draft.
Yes, and Nolan Patrick's still out of that draft class. He was ranked the best, and I still believe he is the best player out of that draft, even though it was very weak. Yeah. And some players they just take more time to develop than others. Not every player is Connor McDavid. Not every player is Sidney Crosby, where they can come in and light the lamp. And you also got to handle those players, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, they're given first line minutes right out of the gate. Nolan Patrick's not.
Yeah, Connor McDavid turned the Oilers around, took them to the playoffs. Just hasn't had secondary scoring. I mean, he's had Leon Draisaitl and a few other guys, but besides that, they just don't have the full lineup around them to get anything done.
Edmonton is just Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid trying to carry the team on their back.
Right.
And
they have some good defensive players, Oscar Klefbom, Darnell Nurse. Their goaltending situation scares me. I mean, now that they got Mike Smith, but I don't see them making the playoffs, especially because, I mean, the Pacific Division is kind of weak besides Vegas, San Jose, and Calgary. That's about it. And Calgary is kind of just like another one-line team. They don't really have much depth. Mm. And Vegas, they just wanted to blame everything on a 4-minute penalty call. And San Jose, I just think they have the worst luck.
Vegas, blame everything on the 5-minute penalty. Here's a key. Don't allow 4 goals on a power play.
Right. Have a good penalty kill. And maybe that won't happen.
Oh,
God. Flyers had 2 penalties last year where they get 2 high stickings. And it was 2 high stick penalties. It wasn't even it wasn't even the Flyers stick. It was
Robert
the guy
Haig.
On the same team.
It was Robert Haig that was called for both of those high sticks, and he didn't even do anything.
Against the Islanders and the Minnesota Wild.
But now, thankfully, you can review that. So That's a good thing with the league.
Yeah.
So just going back to Nolan Patrick, hopefully everything goes well with him. Hopefully he comes back to the Flyers healthy and just has, like, everyone was expecting this year to be the breakout year for Patrick, but I still think Patrick just needs a little more time to develop his game. He has the talent. He's just probably one of those late boomers. Just look at Couturier. He just needs to be given that chance to prove himself. And I think that's what Nolan Patrick it's going to have to take with him. And
I'll continue to take 30, 40-point seasons from Patrick. It's not like he doesn't contribute.
Yeah.
He's not bad defensively either.
Yeah. He's shown his spurts of what he can do. He just needs to do it consistently. That's his main problem, and also stay healthy. Yeah. That's just the main problem with Patrick right now.
He's a good skater.
Yeah.
He's got a really good shot. Quick release. I've always liked Patrick. It's the injuries that he's like China. Like I just feel bad for the guy.
Yeah. I feel bad for him because I don't want to compare him to a guy like Michael Neuvirth who just stepped on the ice and broke like glass. And speaking of Michael Neuvirth, he got released from his player tryout contract from Toronto.
Oh, I wonder what. Wait, I'm trying to think. What was it for? Oh yeah, another injury. Go figure.
Oh boy. So off of Nolan Patrick, let's move into Morgan Frost. He was recently sent down to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. He was struggling with a groin strain. He was only considered like 5 to 7 days out, but I think this move for now makes the most sense for a guy like Morgan Frost because I believe he does need top line minutes down in the AHL to where he can gain some confidence and put the puck in the net or just get some points on the board. Because I feel like if he made the NHL roster, which honestly he did deserve to do it, playing on the third line, maybe fourth line, he wasn't really going to get that chance to produce offensively when you're playing with guys like Michael Raffle, Scott Lawton, and you're just not going to produce on a line like that. So I think for now, playing in the AHL, even though Chuck Fletcher has stated that there's going to be tons of roster changes in the first few weeks, there's really no definite permanent roster for the first few games or so.
Yeah.
Because you're going into Czech Republic for the first game, and then you play at home, 4 or 5 days later?
Yeah, it's the 4th and the 9th.
Yeah, so there's a lot of room there for roster changes. So who knows? Maybe you expect Morgan Frost to be a call-up early in the season.
Yeah, and I'm just happy that he gets to get down there and just get healthy before he comes up.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we said it before. We both thought Farabee would have made the team. And I think it's a good choice that they kept Farabee up. But then again, it doesn't mean that they're going to be on the roster. So it was all players that played last night, the 26th, against the Rangers. They're all going to Europe. And then it was also some of the scratches, Van Riemsdyk, Gostisbehere, Braun, guys like that. So all of them are going to be going. I think it's around like 25
I think
guys that
25
they
to 20.
have.
I think Lyon is also going to be the third string
Yeah,
goaltender
they were
just in
bringing
case
three
something
goalies.
happens.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I'm real
just
excited for that.
yeah. And for Morgan Frost, I do believe this is going to be more beneficial for him. And like we said, this is probably expecting to be an early season call up just in case if something happens, or just if Chuck Fletcher just believes he's ready enough to play in the NHL. Which honestly, I think he is, but like we said, I think it's more beneficial for him to play down in the AHL to get top line minutes.
Yeah.
So the Flyers' previous game that just wrapped up a couple days ago, well, actually last night in New York, Madison Square Garden, was really just a goaltending battle between Carter Hart and Henrik Lundqvist. And none of us really got a chance to watch the game because it wasn't on TV for us here in Philadelphia. For some reason, they didn't want to pick up the stream. I guess that was because of all the Eagles coverage that was going on yesterday. But hey, the Eagles won, so I guess that's the more important thing. But the Flyers, they lose in a shootout to the New York Rangers by a score of 2-1. Travis Konechny gets a goal, and like I said, the show, well, the main points to take out from that game, Carter Hart looked fantastic, and he also battled alongside an all-time great NHL, possibly a future Hall of Famer in Henrik Lundqvist. It was just an amazing goaltending battle throughout. Carter Hart, yes, he does allow his first goal of the preseason, but he stopped a lot of shots in his time during the preseason. And Chris, just what do you think of this game last night, and what do you think of Carter Hart's just overall play?
He's been phenomenal. He stopped 56 of 57 shots in the, like, I don't know, that's what, like 7 periods he's played.
Yeah, I think it's
Like
it's
six and a
around
half, 7
around
periods.
around that much.
Yeah. So he has like that's like a 982 save percentage. That's phenomenal. That's insane. When I was at the game, the 21st at home against the Rangers, his rebound control was real solid, and he was quick with everything. He played really well, and I thought that I mean I think they played good last night. I mean the shootout is ridiculous. It's a skills competition. I can't stand it. But I think that the Flyers, with the way that they've played in the last few preseason games, people would say like, "Oh, it's so frustrating that they lose all the time and this and that." I'm like, the preseason doesn't mean anything. The preseason is a scrimmage game. Like it's honestly the most enjoyable time for me to watch a Flyers game without getting mad because I know it doesn't matter. Like I don't. I just think that if the way that they continue to play in the preseason, because it's not like they play bad, it's just they either can't hold a lead or they just don't win in overtime or a shootout because they've already lost 3 games in either overtime or a shootout.
Yeah,
And
the main problem with the preseason, they just couldn't score. I think
right.
that was the main problem, and also Brian Elliott didn't play that strong in the past few games.
That was a weak goal that he let up in Boston in overtime. He looked okay throughout the middle of the game. That tying goal, that was not his fault at all. That was Myers being too aggressive. And the 4th goal, don't even get me started.
Oh boy.
Okay, I understand the whistle was bad. I understand that, but there's no reason a veteran who's been in the league long enough to let that squeak through his legs like that. All you have to do is stay still, and it doesn't move.
And it's funny that you bring that up because there was an interesting GIF on Twitter of Alain Vigneault and Mike Yeo talking on the bench after that loss. And you can read from Alain Vigneault's lips, you can't win with goaltending like that. It's shit. And Mike Yeo agreed with him.
He's right.
Yeah,
you can't win with that. An experienced goalie should have that. I could see if that's maybe Alex Lyon or Felix Sandstrom in net. But Brian Elliott, a guy who was really good with St. Louis, was okay with the Flames and comes to the Flyers 2 years ago and is a pretty old veteran. He's got some real good NHL experience, and he can't save that? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's really, and it's not like, they were jamming away at him. They literally sat there and looked at it, and it just started rolling through. And the best is that the ref blows the whistle and then calls it a goal. You hear it, and then he does the motion, the pointing after he blows the whistle.
Yeah, then you could see all the Flyers around the net crease just yelling at the ref, you blew the whistle, it shouldn't be. Yeah, and And the rule states that if the ref is in motion to blow the whistle, the goal will be deemed dead.
Right.
So I guess the refs are still in preseason form, but I would say all the blame on that goes to Brian Elliott because, like you said, he's a veteran goaltender. A puck should not squeeze out of him like that so easily. And that's the second time this preseason that a goaltender in overtime has let a puck squeezed out of him and allowed the other team to score.
The other one was even worse.
Yeah, JF Berube did that against the Islanders, and now Brian Elliott against the Boston Bruins. So going into this season, yeah, Carter Hart, yeah, definitely is going to be the starter, but the backup situation, it's kind of questionable right now.
I mean, the main thing is that Elliott, if he needs to be played against the teams that they need to be able to get more offensive time on and keep the puck out of their zone. Because if the puck's in their zone too long, it's a sure goal with Elliott. It's not like I don't listen. I mean, I don't mind Brian Elliott. I never really liked the whole situation why they even brought him in the first place. He's an okay backup. He's, if he can come in, play 20, 30 games, he should be fine. But I just don't. I'm not
You're not sold on him.
Yeah,
I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
you're not sold on him.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't trust him right now.
Yeah. You and me are in the same boat as every other Flyers fan right now. No one trusts Brian Elliott. Yeah, yes, and Brian Elliott in his time with the Flyers, there have been his moments where he's carried the team on his back. And Brian Elliott has looked really good in some stints with the Flyers, but there's also those stints where he allows that one very soft goal and it ruins the entire game.
Yeah, that sounds like two goalies that are familiar.
Yep. And then there's also that case where he steps onto the ice and he breaks or he ruptures a spleen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a tale of tales with Brian Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there's instances where he's insanely good. He's a brick wall. Those instances where he lets everything go and he's Swiss cheese, or the other instance where he breaks like it's nothing.
Right. It's just like Mason and Neuwirth.
And Steve Mason is better out of the three. For every Flyer fan that ripped Steve Mason was a good goaltender. He had no help.
Exactly. Had no defense in front of him. You look back at that 15-16 team, their top two defensemen were Delzato, or and top four were Delzato, Schultz, Delzato, and was it Gudis?
It was the top four that season was Delzato, Gossespierre, I think Streit, and maybe Gudis,
or
someone else.
It might have been Manning,
or McDonald.
Yeah, McDonald. It was most likely McDonald. Had no help in front of him. The penalty kill was atrocious, and that team still came out with 96 points and made the playoffs.
Yep.
With a second line of Simmons, Shen, Couturier, it was just that team was not good. They had Michael Raffl in the first line. Boy. Honestly, Raffl, he's a good player. I've always liked Raffl. He's a solid player. But I just, why? Like, he plays good with Giroux and Voracek. I understand that. And at the time, I didn't understand much about hockey. It was as I said, I started watching in 2012, 2013, and I haven't really started to know more about like the cap hit and analytics and all this stuff now that I know. But at the time, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like Raffl's playing, and I thought he was like real good at the time, and he really didn't do much. But I mean, they still had Matt Reed, they had Umberger at the time. I remember when he scored his first goal. It took him like over a year.
Yeah. I remember freaking R.J. Umberger past his prime when he was before that whole stint when he was actually good with the Flyers back in like the 07-08 days.
Yeah, and then he went to Columbus. He was good too.
Yeah, and then I don't want to remember those days because those were terrible days.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And the 07-08 team wasn't bad either.
Yeah.
Went to the second round?
Yeah, the 07-08 team lost in the third round to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, right. And then they beat the Capitals in the first round with Lupul.
Yes. And
Lupul. I miss Lupul. I wish I still had him.
so going back off the good old days and going to the present day now, going back to the Rangers game, actually, I think there was also another player who stood out very much. And a lot of reporters from Twitter, since none of us really got the chance to see the game because thank you, television, not streaming it. A player that really stood out was Joel Farabee. He had a very great game. He stood out a lot. There was chances where he hit 2 posts, and I think it was topped off of like 5-6 scoring chances. The dude was getting his chances all over the ice. It's just he's so snake bitten right now. He can't find the puck. He can't put the puck at the back of the net, and I'm sure that's not eating away at him. But I'm sure he wants that goal to go in just to get it off his back, so he could feel more comfortable. But
hockey is a game of mind tricks.
Yes,
it's like I've been playing hockey my whole life too, and if I have chances to score and I just can't, I get so frustrated. And if you look at even just the way Farabee, he's had chances in every game, and pretty much every game, and he just can't score. Same thing with Frost too. He's had chances, got robbed by Halak. He hit a post a few times. It's crazy how you just can't score like that. I don't get it.
Yeah, but the one thing that's impressing me so far, it doesn't look like he's fazed by it. He just goes, he misses the chance, he hits the post, he goes right back out for the next shift and does the same exact thing.
Right.
He's going to get that, and I feel like the more chances he's going to eventually cash it in.
Oh, once he gets one, he's gonna let it up.
If we played a Swiss team, I'm sure he's gonna score a goal in that game because he's playing this. It's an NHL team versus the Swiss national team.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know the skill level from that team, but I would assume an NHL caliber team which should beat a Swiss national team.
I mean, they have given some NHL teams problems. I mean, they took the Devils to overtime. I think last year or the year before, I think Edmonton was kind of close to. I think Edmonton actually kind of blew them out a little bit, but that was more of a different team. I think they played a team from Germany, because I know Chicago plays a German team and we play a Swedish team, and
we play a Swiss team.
I think. So majority of Swiss players are better than German players because that's just how the nationality is. I'm just happy we don't play a Finnish team because Finland's been amazing the last few years in those tournaments.
Oh yeah, if the Flyers went up against a Swedish team or a Finnish team, I think we would get crushed. Yeah. that's just reality. But who knows what would happen? But hopefully an NHL team can beat the Swiss team. That would be nice to see. But thanks, school, I probably won't be able to watch it because it's a 2 p.m. game.
What, on Monday?
Yeah, it's a 2 p.m. game on Monday. Yep.
The preseason game?
Yes. It's the exhibition game against the Swiss team at 2 p.m. It's the same time as the Czech game.
Oh, come on. I thought it was a 7.
No.
Man. I thought I was all happy I was going to watch it.
No.
Damn it.
If they played at 7 p.m. here, that would be sometime in the morning there. No, that's not going to happen.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
That stinks.
Well, you learn something new every day. But...
Yeah, really. I guess you do.
Well... Going back to the Farabee thing, I think going back with Farabee, I can't think right now because that what just happened right there. But I think Farabee is eventually going to get his chances, and yeah, it's basically it. Farabee is going to get his chances. He's looked pretty good in every preseason game so far. Nothing looks like it's going to phase him, and playing against the Swiss team on the Monday, and then we get into the regular season on that Friday in the Czech Republic against the Chicago Blackhawks. And like you said earlier, Chris, both teams, Chicago is in Germany right now, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Germany. They're going to play the Germany teams, and the Flyers play the Swiss team, and then Friday they'll meet up.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
That game it's at 1:00, but it's 7 p.m. local.
Oh boy.
So it's 1:00 there, but here it's at 7. I guess it's like a 6-hour time difference.
I would assume so. But why do I recall seeing a 2:00 game? I don't know why.
That's the first game of the season is at 2:00.
I know the first game of the season is 2:00, but for some reason it says 2 p.m. Eastern for me.
Go on NHL.com.
I'm on the Flyers website right now. It says 2 p.m. Eastern for me.
It says 1 o'clock, Monday, September 30th. HC Lausanne, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. local, in parentheses.
No, I am on the Flyers website, and
Yeah,
I
so
see
am I.
and I see 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do not kid me right now.
I can't.
Well, I guess there's something I don't know, but it's 2 p.m. It's 2 p.m. I think that's the actual time. Let's go
Whatever.
with that.
Whatever.
Let's go with that.
Just keep going.
Yeah, just let's keep going. So after the preseason game on Monday, which is at 2 p.m., we will play the Chicago Blackhawks on October 4th at 2 p.m. in the Czech Republic.
Yeah,
Which
2
is,
p.m.
well, 2 p.m. here, whatever time it is in the Czech Republic. So
What time?
it's 2 p.m. Eastern here on Friday. So stop. Just stop. You're confusing me with times. Okay. Oh my god. So yeah, just all this news going on with the Flyers getting in towards the regular season. Just some very exciting news. And this whole thing with the roster, I think, honestly, with the roster, I think it's going to shape out fine. Just hopefully a guy like Chris Stewart doesn't make the roster. That's what I'm praying for. He doesn't.
Hope. Yeah.
But
I don't think Alain Vigneault saw much of him either.
I don't think Alain Vigneault is liking what Chris Stewart has been doing.
No.
Have you catched the Behind the Glass episode, the first one?
I have not, but I have seen the clip. I saw it on Twitter.
Yes, I watched it yesterday when I was on campus in Temple. It was great actually, and I think the next show is going to be on Monday on NHL Network. Yeah, I saw you in the beginning of it in that little split second in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's pretty cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you haven't checked out the Behind the Glass special on the Philadelphia Flyers, it's on NHL Network. It premiered on Wednesday. It's a 4-part miniseries, and the next episode is scheduled for Monday, I think.
And so that's all on NHL Network, right?
Yeah, it's all on NHL Network.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just all the interesting storylines going on there. Alain Vigneault provided some pretty great quotes. You get to see the behind the scenes, the little coaches meeting, the general managers meeting, when they all get grouped together. Some interesting things when they talk about shaping the roster up. Like I said, Alain Vigneault hasn't liked what he's seen from Chris Stewart, thinks he's sucked in a few games, but it would be the typical Flyers thing to sign Chris Stewart to a contract. And Chuck Fletcher is known for being loyal to people that he has worked previously with. Look at the guys he's hired on the Flyers right now. The assistant GM, was previously the assistant GM for Minnesota. Mike Yeo was the head coach of the Wild for a little bit. And it's funny because Fletcher fired him, but I don't think he wanted to fire him. I think he was forced upon his hands to fire Yeo. And he rehired him as a Flyers assistant coach. So a little interesting storylines right there. So before we get into all of the other NHL news that has happened over the course of the past few days, the week, we'll pause for a little bit to hear a word from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm one of the hosts of Massive Late Fee. Do you remember Blockbuster? Well, we do, and we racked up a lot of late fees there. That's why we're glad there's things like Netflix, Hulu, and Blockbuster has died, mostly because of us. We cover streaming shows and pretty much whatever we want. Join us every Thursday as we talk TV and movies on Massive Late Fee. You can find us at Massive Late Fee on Twitter, Massive Late Fee on Facebook. You can email the show at massivelatefee@gmail.com, and you can find us at MySpace, Massive Late Fee. Massive Late Fee, the best podcast we can think of.
And welcome back to the Fired Up podcast. And over the course of the break, me and Chris were trying to confirm the actual time for the preseason game, and Chris was reading an article that was written June 18th of 2019, and I was reading off of the actual Flyers calendar from their website, so I think Chris was reading something that was a little dated. So I think the actual game is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on that preseason game against the Swiss team. So, Chris, so you made a little mistake there, Chris, but I'm not going to blame you. We all make mistakes.
It's all right.
We all make mistakes. So
let's keep moving forward.
So off of the Philadelphia Flyers, let's get into some NHL news that has happened over the course of the week. one of the bigger news was that Carolina defenseman Justin Falk has been traded to the St. Louis Blues for Joel Edmondson and Dominic Bach. And I think the Carolina Blues also sent a 5th round or a 7th round pick over to the Blues as well, along with Justin Falk. And in turn, Justin Falk signs a 7-year deal worth $6.5 million annually. And interesting trade going on here. There was always these rumors that Carolina was looking to trade Justin Falk. He had a no trade clause or a no movement clause with a certain list of teams that he did not want to be traded to. There was all these rumors that he might have been traded to the Anaheim Ducks, but it looks like he found his team with the St. Louis Blues, who was willing to give him an extension that he wanted. So he's going to be staying with the St. Louis Blues for the rest of his career from right now, it looks like. I think he's in his late 20s right now, so this contract will take him to his mid to late 30s. So I think right now this is a good contract for the St. Louis Blues, and I think the return's okay for the Carolina Hurricanes, but time will tell who wins this trade. I know Bach is a top prospect from the St. Louis Blues that comes over to the Carolina Hurricanes. So time will tell really with this trade. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on this trade for Justin Falk right now?
I was just surprised that he went to St. Louis because I think this now people now are going to understand that they're most likely done with Pietrangelo because they signed him. They didn't have that much cap space beforehand. Pietrangelo, he's a free agent in 2 years, the end of the 21-22. So that's one of the main reasons why I thought it was kind of weird. And number two is that Carolina, Falk is most likely their best. He's arguably their best defenseman. I think Edmondson is a good return. He's a good defenseman, but I mean they still do have Dougie Hamilton. But I do think that the Blues won this trade because Carolina, they really don't have that good defense anymore, at least in my opinion. I know Slavin and Pesce are pretty good, solid defensemen. I mean, they still do have good defensive. They have a good defensive core. It's just, I think getting rid of Falk was kind of just, I don't really understand why. I thought it was kind of just like a weird trade because I knew, like, I think we talked about it before in another episode that he was going to go to a team out west, but you said that he wanted to sign before, but now he signed after. So it's
it was that whole rumor thing that he would only go to, I think it was the Anaheim Ducks. He would only go to the Ducks if they gave him an extension. Yeah, and I don't think
that was before the trade, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think he wanted to be sure that he was going to get an extension with the team that he was being traded to.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like St. Louis was one of the few or the only team that was willing to give him an extension that he wanted.
Probably one of the only few willing teams to actually give him the extension because Falk, he obviously didn't come cheap. I mean, 6.5 for a pretty solid defenseman. The Blues have some pretty good players that require a decent amount of cap. I was just surprised that they got it done. I really am.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you brought up with the Alex Pietrangelo little theory right there that the Blues might be maybe done with Pietrangelo because we all know when the Blues were sucking during last season when they were facing the basement of the league, there was all these trade rumors swirling around guys like Tarasenko, Alex Pietrangelo, guys that could possibly be traded. But then all those rumors went down the drain as they rose to the top with Jordan Binnington and won the Stanley Cup. But now possibly with this Falk signing, trade and signing, like the question can be, is this possibly the end of the tenure of Alex Pietrangelo with the St. Louis Blues when he becomes a free agent in a couple of years? Who knows? That's a story to tell for a different time because that's 2 years down the line. Who knows if the Blues free up more cap space and they manage to extend Pietrangelo, or if this actually means that Pietrangelo would be done with the St. Louis Blues and hits free agency. I don't know. It'd be nice if the Pietrangelo came to the Philadelphia Flyers. That'd be nice, but a man can
dream.
Yeah, a man can dream, but that's a future story later to be told. So,
I mean, Pietrangelo, he's already 29, so he'll be 31 by the time his contract ends, and he gets paid $7 million. with 2 years
Yeah.
left. So that's 14 million Justin Pietrangelo. And the Blues, their cap space situation, as I said, I know I have said this already, but the fact that they got that at least to a decent contract to at least give themselves a little bit of room in cap space. I mean, as of now, they don't have any cap space. They have none, and this is according to Cap Friendly. And I mean, they just used it on their total forwards is 49 million, or it's close to 50 million, and their defense is 24, and then goalies is 875. Bennington making 4.4.
Yeah, they just extended Bennington to that contract. So
and he's also a free agent the year Pietrangelo's done.
Yeah, because I think with Bennington, the whole thing is, even though like the amazing run that he had last season, it's still like is this guy what he is that he showed last season, or is he gonna take a step backwards?
I can't say him taking a step backwards.
That's the real. But is he gonna have those numbers that he had last season?
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, he might have a little setback, but
yeah,
maybe with a little bit of the hangover.
I still see St. Louis top 3 in that division. I think Colorado is going to win that division, or maybe Dallas. Colorado or Dallas, either one of them.
I mean, yeah, that can possibly happen, but the NHL, honestly, the past few years has been basically unpredictable. The teams that we expect to do good don't do good. And that's been the NHL over the past few years.
Now, the one team in that division that is taking a step back is Winnipeg, because their defense is just going downhill, and they finally got Line done, and I really don't see them being. I think the time for Winnipeg to win is. I think that ship has sailed for them to actually go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, Winnipeg, even though they still could have that chance, I think their window to win it was last season, and they didn't do it. They made an impressive run 2 years ago, but then got beaten by the Vegas Golden Knights, who were just on that impressive run in general to the Stanley Cup Finals. Mm-hmm. But like this whole thing that's going on, they lost Trouba. They possibly are losing Dustin Byfuglien to his questioning his career so far, whether he's going to retire or return to the season. It's still unknown right now. And like you said, also, the Jets finally managed to get Patrick Laine to sign to a deal. So right now, I would say consider this possibly a bridge deal. It's a 2-year deal worth $6.75 annually. That's a lot of money for a 2-year deal. But I'm assuming Patrick Laine just wanted to get back to playing hockey. I think he was tired of holding out. He didn't want to go into the regular season. Mm-hmm. So just to get something done. But like the interesting thing to me is, I thought Connor was going to sign before Laine.
It's kind of the same thing with the Flyers. We all thought Konechny was signing before Provorov.
Yeah. And just
like there were so many more rumors too with Provorov that it was taking forever and this and that, and Konechny was getting closer. And then as soon as Provorov signed, it was, oh, well, Konechny's not done yet. You know, like, and then the whole thing with Laine that continued, and then there was Marner, and I'm so happy that the free agency thing is basically over at this point. There's only a few guys left, because really a majority of everyone's signing right now. I mean, we had Kachuk, Falk, he signed Laine, and then Rantanen's now getting closer.
Yeah, I think the last few RFAs that are left to be signed are Rantanen, Kyle Connor, and I think Honka. But I think Honka, there's like a whole like dispute going on that he might be traded or something like that, trade his rights away. Mm-hmm. So there's really like, who knows what's going on there. Kyle Connor, we really don't know what's going on with his contract disputes right now. And there have been the news rumors that Mikko Rantanen to the Colorado Avalanche, they are getting or creeping closer to possibly getting a deal there. I'm not really sure what the totals are. It's just the rumors right now. They're getting closer to getting a deal done. And honestly, this shouldn't have been a problem because Colorado has a ton of cap space. So I don't know
I think the thing is with Colorado is that they have 2 players that are going to be going on deep contracts, and I think one of them is McKinnon.
Yes.
And he's going to be getting the big bucks because he's their best player.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it's not McKinnon. In 2 years, they have Matt Calvert, Belmar. They're both UFAs, and then Landeskog. He's a UFA. RFAs are Burakovsky. Actually, the 2020-21 season RFAs, Burakovsky, Yost, Nichushkin, and Kamenev. And then their UFAs are Matt Nieto and Colin Wilson. And then Mikko Rantanen is RFA in 1920. But then you have 2021 2021 RFAs are Zadorov and Graves, and then their UFAs are Barbario and Kevin Connaughton. And really, that's about it. But they kind of have, Landeskog is going to be getting money. And they did bring in Kadri too, so that's around 4.5 for them. McKinnon, he's not a UFA until the 2023-2024 season. So it doesn't look like money is a problem, or at least in the next few years. I think it's more term, honestly.
Maybe it's the Rantanen side pushing more for a shorter term deal with a lot of money, but who knows? Maybe the Colorado Avalanche did with a long term deal.
Yeah, kind of like we saw at Marner when he wanted 3 years. He wanted a bridge term deal with Matthews money.
Yeah.
And then he denied that 3-year, $11 million deal.
Yeah, it's the same thing going on with these RFAs. They want to control their future when it comes to their contracts and what they want to do in free agency.
Yeah.
So they tend to go with the more short-term, more bridge deal type contracts so they can, I guess, control their own destiny when their contract ends.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the path that Rantanen's going down, and Colorado might not want to do that because they want to lock him up with this team.
Yeah.
Just because look at that line chemistry that him, McKinnon, and Landeskog have. You can't blame Colorado for wanting to lock that up long term.
No way.
And
since we're talking about cap space too, the Flyers cap space actually went up.
It did?
Yeah. It was a 1.2. Now on Cap Friendly, their projected cap space is a 1.867421.
Ooh, that's the big. Even though it's it's like over 600,000, but it's
I'll take it. They need
still,
cap space right now.
It's still scary to see how tight the cap is.
Oh, it should have went up.
It's going to go up from all the contracts that we set down and whatnot and all that. But
that's most likely why it went up, because of all the guys that they sent to the Phantoms too.
Yeah, all the guys that cleared waivers, all those minor league contracts that they signed in the offseason got sent down. So a lot of that money gets taken off the actual cap. Mm-hmm. But it's still difficult to see a very tight cap with 1.8 million, because even though that money in the next few years it's going to go down not down the drain, it's going to come back to us, because we got Braun's expiring next season, Brian Elliott expires next season,
Tyler
Pitlick expires, so we're going to have the cap space. It's just weird to see it right now, just with the whole Hextall scheme when he got us out of the cap hell.
Yeah.
Even though we're technically not in it right now, it's kind of a weird sight to see right now.
Yeah, and plus they're getting a lot back too. They're getting, I know I brought this up before, at the end of the 1920 season, getting $1 million back. Actually, at the end of the 2020-21 season, they're getting $1 million back from McDonald, and $900,000 at the end of this season from Schlemko, and then $600,000 from the 2021 season. So total, that's around and then from the 1920, that's around $2 million, and then 2021 2.5. Gudis, he's about $1 million, and then Pitlick, if he's not re-signed, $1 million. Elliott, if he's not re-signed, $2 million. Braun, if he's not re-signed, $3.8 million.
I completely forgot that we're still paying Gudis from the Niskanen trade.
Yeah, the 30% that they saved.
I still don't understand why we needed to retain Gudis' salary. I don't know what was Washington's deal with that.
I think the thing was that they were tight on cap space at the time, and they wanted at least a little bit, so that I think it made the trade better for Washington because they saved just a little bit more of cap space.
I mean, that's probably the possibility, but it's just at the moment, why are we saving cap to a team in our division? But
because this was done in the middle of June.
Yes,
around the first 2 weeks of June, and they still had a lot of good. They still had Provorov, Konechny. They still had some few guys to sign. And
Yeah,
this
they
is
did.
and they also had Sanheim, Lawton. This was before all that happened. Elliott. So they had around I think going into this all season they had around 15 million,
I
and then
think it
it
was more than
was
that.
it? It
I
might have
think
been.
so.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right. It had to be more than that because they had around 13 million before Provorov, and then Sanheim was what 2.25, and then Lawton was 2.3.
Yeah, I
So
think
it
they
was
had
it's
I think they had like
around 20
20
milli.
plus,
Yeah.
around 20 plus,
Hmm.
around that. Yeah, just and going off of the topic of cap space and going into one of the more bigger NHL news that happened over the past week. Austin Matthews has been charged with sexual misconduct. And the story of this is that over, I would say, the summer back in Arizona, his home state, Austin Matthews and a few buddies got drunk and they went up to a car. I think the story is they went up to a car of this, a security officer, a security woman, and he tried to get into the car, dropped his pants, showed his underwear to her, and all that. And it's kind of a disturbing story. In just to sum it up, it's just very inexcusable. It's stupid of Austin Matthews to do something like that. There's even though like a lot of people make the excuse, oh, he's drunk, he's just hanging out with buddies. It's just unacceptable. It's
Yeah.
plain unacceptable.
The one
He's
thing I give him props to though is that he owns up to it. He's not sitting here and saying, "Oh yeah, I didn't do it." I saw an interview with Kyle Dubas, and he said it's making it easier for them because he's owning up to it. He's not saying, it wasn't me or this and that. And at least, I understand it's bad. I get that, but at least the guy realizes it was wrong. He knows he shouldn't have done it. And you think there's any chance they don't give him the seat now because of this?
yeah, I think that's there's a possibility on that, but I think it's just more of a bigger story because I feel like some people are like undermining this a little bit. Like
Yeah.
some people are throwing this like there's like the bigger story is with this whole thing going on with Austin Matthews is the chance of getting the captain more stripped from him or something like that, and I feel like it's more like overturning the fact that what he did, and they're like more, I would say, underlying the fact of what he did and more like trying to see how it affects the team
Hmm.
instead of just focusing on what he did in general.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of instances and with sports people in general just abusing women and all that stuff, and
Yeah,
it's just
especially like football,
especially
basketball.
football, basketball, baseball with sexual abuse and all that. It just doesn't. It just feels like some
It doesn't
reporters.
happen in hockey. It really doesn't.
It,
When was the last time this maybe happened?
I
With
think there was
Giroux?
I think there was a case with one of the Los Angeles Kings players, and I forget what the story was, but I think he was suspended for it. It's the story slipping my mind right now, but I
Oh,
know there was someone on Los Angeles that had went through I think a case of like sexual assault or sexual abuse or something like that.
I think I understand what you're talking about. I know it wasn't Richards. I It wasn't Jared Stoll. Uh,
Yeah, and this is not like a story of Claude Giroux back how many years or so when he was back in Canada, he was drunk and he slapped a cop in the ass or something like that. I
yeah,
think
that
it was
was like 2014.
I think it was a male cop too, but it's just
Yeah.
like the story with Austin Matthews is he tried going up to a woman security officer and he dropped his pants. That's inexcusable. It's sexual misconduct and it's sexual harassment and something like that. And on that type of case, it's unacceptable. It's inexcusable on Austin Matthews' part. And like you said, yes, he's accepting it. He regrets what he did. He admits that he was wrong, but it's just that stuff like that just shouldn't happen in this day and age. It shouldn't
It's
happen.
horrible.
And sadly, there are still those people who act like that, and it's tough to
Yeah.
see.
I know. I mean, the only reason it happens is because he was drunk,
Yeah, but
and
that
it's a problem because like if you know, I mean, there are so many people that look up to him and say, like he's my favorite player or he's my role model, things like that, and then he goes and does something like that. I think it's just I don't like it. It's
yeah,
I understand, I mean, I get it. He's a human being. We're gonna make mistakes. But if you're, he is the prime spotlight of that team. if you think of Toronto Maple Leafs, the number one thing pops in your head is Austin Matthews. Number one thing. Like, you can't do things like that. It's just going to ruin your reputation.
Exactly. Just anyone playing in the Canadian market, teams like Montreal Canadiens and teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, I would say
so much
they
media.
get so much media coverage, and everything
Right.
is circling around you. And even though like it's still weird that the Maple Leafs themselves didn't know about this until like a week or two ago. Like the story just never circled up until a week or two ago. It's just that weird that it took this long for this to come out. And
it's weird.
It's honestly, that's still an inexcusable part right there, that it took this long to reveal itself.
Yeah, I don't know much about what happens in court and things like that, but it says here he was issued a summons July 23rd. So I don't know what that means.
I think because I think he was scheduled to meet in court, and I think he got charged. He got charged with it. I'm not sure what the other punishments was. I think he had to pay a fine or something like that.
Yeah, it happened on May 26th, and he was not arrested.
Yeah, he was not arrested for it. He was charged with a fine. But just to sum it all up, because we're not experts on this topic, and we're just expressing what we think about this subject. It's just an inexcusable thing for a guy like Austin Matthews to do. Mm-hmm. And I know there's going to be those people that are going to make the argument that, oh, he was drunk, he was just having fun with a few friends. It's still drunk is not an excuse. It's not. Right. Being drunk is not an excuse. You still have some control of your actions.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, like, you can't just look at the person. If they were at a bar, you have to look at the bartender too, because at some point they have to realize, they have to stop serving them. But then again, I don't know if they were at a bar or not. But if they were, and he was drunk, I mean, if all this happened and say they were driving or something like that, that's even worse.
Yeah. And just the fact that him and his friends thought it would be, I don't know if it would be funny or something like that, just to walk up to a security guard and pull their pants down. Just inexcusable right there.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yes. And I think to wrap up this subject and get back into the interesting NHL, well, not interesting NHL news, because that was just a weird takeoff right there, but just to get back into the summary of this rest of the NHL news, with Justin Falk being traded, all these signings with the Tkachuk line, Riston possibly getting closer. It's Chris, just what are your thoughts on all these news in general?
There's a lot of things. I mean, it's crazy that now all these players are just signing right before the start of the season, and it's most likely because they just want to be done with it too, and they just want to play hockey. I mean, the Matthews thing I thought was kind of weird. I didn't really understand. I didn't understand the full thing at first. I thought the Falk trade was weird. I didn't understand at first why that even happened. Then I looked more into it. I thought the Tkachuk deal was pretty good. It helps out Calgary. Definitely helps out Tkachuk too, because Calgary they really aren't. Calgary has no cap space left, so they, I guess, were waiting to see what happened with Tkachuk to make sure that they got him done. Because as of right now, he's their highest paid player, and Johnny Gaudreau still makes $6.75 until 2022-2023. Rantanen, I've always liked Rantanen as a player. I hope he signs. I wish the Flyers had him. I really think that all of this happening, it's good, because now we're seeing more players finally settle in and realize that, you know what, it's time to just play hockey. The season's starting. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait as much as you. The Flyers season starts next Friday in the Czech Republic. And for this episode of the Flyered Up podcast is wrapping up. I am your host, Amadeo Gracia, along with Chris Mayer. I hope you guys have an incredible weekend, and looking forward to Flyers hockey starting on Monday with the game against the Swiss national team, and then season opener in the Czech Republic against the Chicago Blackhawks. It's going to be a very fun week. So without further ado, I'm Amadeo Gracia. That's Chris Mayer, my partner. Thank you guys for listening, and have a great weekend.
See you guys.